Hi, I'm Thelma, and welcome to my kitchen. I'm so excited that you decided to join me today to prep for tomorrow's feast and also to make apple pie. And thanks for being here with me. I love hosting parties and cooking for my friends and family, and I'm really happy that I now have friends and family here cooking with me tonight. So just as if you were visiting me here live, we're going to start with what we always start with when you come to visit me. We start with a drink. So normally I would prepare it for you and I would serve it to you, but I can't. So I'm going to share with you what I'm preparing for myself. And if you happen to have the ingredients that I posted on Facebook, maybe you can prepare the same drink for yourself. If not, grab a glass of wine, a glass of water, just anything that makes you smile and will make this evening even more enjoyable than cooking with me. So what I have here is ice, of course, and fresh pomegranates. I have smooshed them a little bit to get some of the juice out. And now I'm going to pour them over the ice with the juice, of course. These pomegranates came from my sister's house. She's got a tree and beautiful fruit. Now I'm going to add a little bit of tonic here and my favorite gin, Brockman's. No, this is not an advertisement. I just really like this particular gin. It comes from Spain. I have not managed to find this in the US, but luckily we have family in Spain that supplies us with this amazing gin. And we're just gonna stir a little bit. And salud, cheers. Let's get the evening started. Before we get to the pie, I promised you that I would teach you how to make some delicious roasted nuts. So let me get those ingredients here real quickly. Where are they? Here they are. And I normally just use blanched almonds, but somebody ate half of my almonds, so I had to improvise and add walnuts and raw almonds, but they're not blanched. And we have a pretty large lemon, so I'm just going to use half of the juice of the lemon, and I'm going to pour it right in the container with the nuts. And then I'm going to add the ingredients that I posted on the recipe, which is a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of table salt, and a teaspoon of cumin. And I opted to add a little bit of red pepper flakes because I like everything spicy. So there we go. Then we close this. And we're just going to shake them up. Make sure everything is nicely coated. Okay. And we're going to walk over to the oven here. And we want to set it to 250 degrees. And we're going to take a cookie sheet. And we're just going to spread the nuts over the cookie sheet. Just one layer. Spread them evenly. Juan is managing the technical aspect of the show here. And Juan, I'm getting a text telling me that to some people the video is not available.
You have to be go to the main channel and this live there. It's a different one. Go to the main page where the videos are.
Okay. Okay. It looks like they got it. The beauty of technology. Okay, so now we have our nuts here. They're nicely coated with all our yummy ingredients. And we're gonna place them in the oven. Okay, and we're gonna set a timer for 30 minutes. Set 30-minute timer. And we will be notified when that's up. And now we're gonna start working on our pie, which I know is what everybody's excited about. So go ahead and start measuring your ingredients while I set up my station here. I'm gonna get some ice to make sure that my water is really, really cold. We live in Big Bear, so tap water is pretty good. Doesn't have any funny flavors or anything like that. So that's what we're gonna be using. Okay, let me remove this from here. And we are gonna start mixing our dough for the crust. So I have 2 cups of flour here, not sifted, just regular flour. We're gonna put that in our bowl. Then we have 2/3 of a cup plus 2 tablespoons of vegetable shortening. And we're gonna use a nice little spatula here to drop that into the flour. And there is this little tool that's really handy for mixing the flour and the shortening or butter or anything that you want to use in making a dough. If you don't have this tool, it's okay. You can use, some people use 2 knives to cut the fat. Other people use a fork. And if you prefer, you can use your fingers. Try not to use the palm of your hand because the palm of your hand is usually warmer than your fingers, and you want to keep the dough on the cool side. So just go ahead and mix, mix, mix. My hands are perfectly clean. As Julia Child would say, impeccably clean. I just washed them, of course. Well, these days, we all have super clean hands all the time, right? So that helps when we're baking, when we're cooking. But just in case, when I walk into my kitchen to start cooking or baking or doing anything that people are gonna eat, I wash my hands and make sure they are perfectly clean. Okay, so we're gonna wait until the fat, the shortening, is fully incorporated into the flour. And it's gonna look something similar to this. You can see that there's no big pieces. Most of them will be about the size of a little pea. And if you find that there's larger pieces, just work the dough a little bit more. And then when you think your dough is pretty crumbly, almost like wet sand, that's when you know that you have mixed enough for now and you're ready to add your water. The amount of water that you use really depends on how dry your house is. Up in Big Bear, I use a lot more water than I do when I bake down the hill. So I'm going to use, instead of the standard 4 to 6 tablespoons of water, I'm going to make a little cavity here in the middle of the dough. And I'm going to start with that much. I'm going to start with 6. But I have a feeling I'm going to have to go closer to 10. Okay, again, my hands are impeccably clean, and I'm going to start working the water into the dough. This pie crust is incredibly easy to make. I've been watching other recipes online and looking at different ways of preparing the same pie. And most of them are so complicated. I really enjoyed just using the 3 ingredients, and I usually have dough ready to go in the fridge, because sometimes I just feel like making a pie. Sometimes I use the dough to make crackers. When I don't have crackers handy, or I want something that's kind of a treat, I go ahead and do that. Okay, so now you see my dough is almost there. It's still a little crumbly. It needs a little bit more water, just because I want to be able to roll it out and not have trouble with it breaking as I try to turn it into a pie. So I added 2 more tablespoons of water. And now it's starting to look more like a regular dough. Now I can turn it into a ball, and it will stick together. Kind of like this. I think some of you know me pretty well that are watching tonight. And you guys all know that I like to improvise. And in every recipe turns out just a little bit different, because it's just fun to change things around a little bit. But this dough is pretty consistent, and then I improvise with the filling of the cake, or how I end up preparing it. But okay, so I have broken the dough into 2 balls. Okay, and I have turned them, or I'm turning the second one into kind of like a disc, so it's easier to roll out when we're ready to roll out in a few minutes. And I'm going to get a little bit of plastic wrap to wrap the discs in and put them in the fridge while we make our apple filling. So give me 1 second. We are getting there. You'll see how easy this recipe is. And before you know it, you'll be making pie and trying different flavors for your family and friends. And you'll see that when things don't work out as the recipe says, well, you just make do and turn whatever you're making into something delicious that might not look exactly what you want, but there's no shame in that. As long as the food is delicious, enjoy it, work with it, have fun with it, and there you go. Okay, so we are going to put the dough in the fridge while we make the pie filling, and let it cool a little bit so it's easier to manage when we decide to roll it into the pie. Let me remove this from here. Remove the water. And now we're going to have a larger bowl to put our fruit in. And I'm going to get another container so that we can use as a trash bin on the counter. A little drink doesn't hurt. Okay, so the recipe calls for apples or a combination of apples and pears. So today I'm going to add 2 pears and 6 apples. You can also use Asian pears. Now, Asian pears and pears are a lot sweeter than Granny Smith apples, so you can use less sugar. The recipe that I shared with you uses very little sugar. If you have more of a sweet tooth, or if your kids really like to have a very sweet treat, go ahead and add more sugar. But for me, 1 tablespoon just brings out the sweetness in the fruit and doesn't overwhelm the pie with too much sugar. Then if you want to add a scoop of ice cream, enjoy the sweetness of the ice cream, but it doesn't become overwhelming. So let's peel our pears. And this is going to take us a little while. So I'm hoping that you're making this with me and that you're also peeling your fruit. I love to make pie with fruit from my garden, but this year we only had a lot of pears. We didn't have any apples at all, and the pears are gone. We ate all of them. We got a lot of pears, and I made a lot of different pies and desserts and cakes with pear, and now I had to buy them from the store. You can slice them in half and core them and do all that fancy stuff if you prefer. To me, I'm just as happy making the slices a little bit irregular and moving a little bit faster. But if it makes you happy to core the fruit and make all the pieces the same size, go for it. I hope that tomorrow you share with me some pictures of how your pie turned out. So yeah, as I was saying, in Big Bear this year, we did not get any apples, at least not our trees. We had a very cold night in, I think it was late May, early June, and it managed to kill all the blossoms that were just blooming. So we ended up with really pretty green trees, but not a single apple. A couple of years ago, we had so many apples from all our trees that, and I think the whole town did. So we started giving them to the zoo to feed the animals, because, you know, bears love apples. And I'm sure many other animals, but I always think of the bears eating the apples. And it got to a point that the zoo had way too many apples from all the residents of Big Bear, and they rejected our apples. Well, they didn't reject them, they just said they had enough. So instead, I decided to make jam and sauce and anything else I could possibly think of to not throw away my beautiful apples. I grew up in a family that always had fruit trees around. My dad had a peach orchard, and when he no longer had the orchard, he still had fruit trees in the backyard in our house. and we always had fresh fruit. And I tell you, there's nothing more delicious and just wonderful than to go out to your yard and grab a pear, an apple, a peach, anything that's grown there that you have nurtured and taken care of for a year to be able to enjoy. This year, just going out to the pond and to the one single tree that gave us fruit and grabbing a pear and just eating it there. It was so satisfying and so delicious. Oops. That one got too close to the core. So we're almost there. We're halfway there. What other stories can I tell you about apple pie? That I've been making my own apple pie for many years. And I don't always tell people that I substitute the apples for the pears. So very often people go, oh my God, this is so delicious. I bet you use such and such kind of apple. And nope, they're pears. So people always think it's kind of funny. Some people find it a little annoying that they can't guess what kind of apple I use because I didn't use apples. So that's kind of fun. So a friend of mine posted on Facebook today that she was having trouble making a pie. I don't know what flavor she was making. So I suggested that she join us. Maybe she's there. Hannah, are you there? By the way, if you guys have comments or questions, Juan is standing by to read any of your comments or questions to me and make sure that whatever problems you have, you tell me and we'll figure out how to fix them. There's a chat window, Juan is telling me to tell everyone. So go to the chat window and tell Juan if you have any comments or any questions, or if you have any ideas that might work better than what we're doing here, and we'll try them. I think most of you know that I'm not a trained chef. I am just a person that loves to cook. My kitchen is my happy place in my home. I come here when I'm sad, when I'm happy, when I'm stressed out, and being here just calms me down, makes me happy. Okay, so the apples are done. I used 6 apples and 2 pears. You can probably use the full, 9 apples if you have that many. Use a little bit more. And if you have any left, you can always save it in the fridge and make something else in the next couple of days. So now we are going to add the lemon.
Kathy says it's looking delicious. What do I do with leftovers?
Oh, I was just going to tell you. Hi, Taffy. Okay, so if you have leftover apple and pears or whatever the filling is, go ahead and put it in a Ziploc bag and put it in the freezer. It will stay for even a couple of months. Just make sure you remove as much of the air from the bag as you can before you put it in the freezer. And you can use it in a week and 2 and in a month. But most likely you're not going to wait that long because you're going to want to have more pie soon. Let me get a colander for that. We don't want the seeds from the lemon. Nothing against the seeds, but... So these lemons came from my sister's house. My sister Norma has beautiful lemons. Actually, several of my sisters have lemon trees, so it's been a really long time since I had to buy a lemon. It's a blessing to have family with fruit trees, I always have fresh fruit to enjoy or cook with or bake with or have fun with. But yeah, this lemons came from Norma's house, so thank you, Norma. Okay, so we have the juice of 2 lemons with the apples there. And I have already measured this, so I'll give you a second in case you haven't measured it. But I have 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and half a teaspoon of nutmeg. They're all mixed in this little container here. And we're gonna spread them all over the apples. Again, if you want to make it a little bit sweeter, go ahead and add a little more sugar. If you're using just pears, or if you happen to find any Asian pears and you're using Asian pears, you probably don't need any sugar at all. The Asian pears actually work incredibly well in the pie. One of our homes down the hill has an Asian pear or an Asian pear tree. So this year I ended up I couldn't eat as many Asian pears as the tree gave us. So I use them in everything you can possibly imagine. They're delicious in a salad and just, different desserts. But I ended up slicing them, peeling them, and saving them in little freezer bags to be used as part of my pie fillings here and there. And oh my God, they were so incredibly sweet. It was great. Okay, so our fruit is ready. Now here comes the other really fun part. We're gonna roll out the dough and actually make our pie. We're gonna remove this, and we're gonna remove the fruit. And see, my counter is becoming clean little by little. Okay, now I'm gonna show you a wonderful little tool that I bought maybe a year or 2 ago. And it's just amazing. You never leave a mess. You always have a clean surface to work on, so make sure you clean it after you use it so it's always ready for you. I don't know if you can see on the camera very well, but it's just a silicone pastry mat. Here, you can see it upside down. And this is just ideal for working on any kind of dough. And it's got the circles that tell you how big your dough is rolled out to be and how much more you need to go. Okay, now this is my pie dish, and according to my handy mat, it is about 9 inches, but I want to make sure that my dough rolls out to at least 2 inches beyond. So I'm going to try to make a 12-inch in diameter circle with the dough that I have. And we're gonna flour our surface. And now we're gonna get the dough from the fridge. Most recipes will tell you that you need to leave the dough in the fridge for 2 hours. You can. I'm usually too impatient and I don't. And I really don't see a big difference. So I think tonight, for the sake of time and because we're having fun and we have a lot of cutting and preparing of many other things to do for tomorrow, we are just going to work with the dough as it is now. This is another little tool that's really handy for scraping any vegetables that you cut from your cutting mat, but also you'll see that it's really handy in pulling the dough from the mat if it gets a little bit sticky. So here we have our rolling pin, and I usually start from the middle and just spread it out a little bit to continue with as much as I can the the circular form. And we're going to try to get this little circular dough to be about 12 inches in diameter. So Hannah was telling me that the dough that she was working with today, or she posted on Facebook, just did not want to turn into anything that looked like a pie. I think that's happened to more than one of us in certain occasions. Sometimes the dough just doesn't behave. It's never our fault, of course. But I have learned that you can patch the dough up and make it work, even if it comes in smaller pieces than your full round. Just overlap it a little bit, work with it, and in the end, it will all cook together, it will all bake together, and you will end up with a delicious pie, even if it looks a little bit less beautiful than you thought you were going to have. It's okay. Normally, you'll be cooking for friends and family, and they will enjoy the pie just the same. I know my family does. So my husband, Juan, is a very tall, thin man. And he always complains that I cook too much, that I bake too much. And but somehow he enjoys every bite of what I make. When our daughter, Natasha, was in school, I used to send cakes and cupcakes and cookies to school with her, which is great. I could make as much as I wanted then, and it never went to waste. Then Natasha went off to college, and my audience was reduced to just one. So poor Juan had to do a lot of long distance running and a lot of exercising to keep up with my cooking. But I don't think he minded so much. I don't think he still minds very much. So we're getting there. How's everyone's dough working out? Anybody having troubles? Anybody having breaking dough? If I happen to have a troublesome piece of dough, I'll show you how to make it work regardless. And I want to make sure our nuts are not burning yet. So give me 1 second to check the time. It looks like our nuts are just about ready. Let me check on them. Keep working on your dough. Give me 1 second. Okay. We're going to leave them in there for another 5 minutes. They're still not completely dry. In the meantime, we will continue working on our pie. Okay, so now this is the really scary part. Our dough has reached beyond the 12 inches, so now we have to place it on the pie dish. And let's hope that it decides to cooperate, okay? So this little handy tool helps to convince the dough to follow the rolling pin and make the transfer onto the pie dish a little bit easier. Ta-da! Okay, I'm gonna move it just a little bit. Okay, how's your pie looking? Does it look kind of like this? Do you have a little bit of dough hanging over the sides? So here's a little tip. If there's any areas that don't reach the edge, just take some from the overhanging area and place it on the edge so your edges are fully covered. And if your dough had decided to misbehave and it just didn't want to cover your whole pie dish, as long as you have enough pieces, Frankenstein it a little bit. Just add a little bit here and there, and your pie will be as delicious as if you had a perfect crust. Okay, so I'm gonna leave the hanging edges so that way I can fold them over because I like really thick ridges on the edges. I love pie crust. Oh, before we do that, let's pour our apples and our pears or whatever fruit you decided to use in the pie dish. Try to arrange it so that it goes to the edge of the pie. So what else are you guys making for Thanksgiving tomorrow? I sent you a menu of everything that we're going to be making, or I'm going to be making. I wonder if Natasha and Juan will help. I'm not sure. I'll tell you about that later. Normally, my family, and I have a huge family. There's 52 of us all together. So there's no house big enough to accommodate a table for 52 people. Right? It's not in our family. And it's too cold to have it outside in the garden, have dinner outside in the garden. So we celebrate in 3 different houses. Okay, so I have some of the juice of the lemon here. I'm gonna pour just a little bit. We don't wanna make it too soggy, but you can use a little bit of that juice because it's got a lot of the flavor from the cinnamon and the sugar and the nutmeg. Okay, so we put that away. We set our dish on the side here. We clean this up a little bit. And I'm sure half of the flour is on my shirt, which is perfect that I wore a black shirt so you can see how messy baking can be, but that's okay. Okay, now we're gonna put a little more flour here on the surface. And we're gonna roll out the other half of the dough. Make sure that you're generous with the flour so it doesn't get stuck either on the rolling pin or the mat. I very, very seriously recommend that you all get a mat if you enjoy baking. It's just wonderful.
Mom wants to know what you're drinking.
Who does?
Mom.
Hi, I'm drinking a pomegranate gin and tonic. So maybe you were not here at the beginning of the show, but what this is fresh pomegranate seeds kind of mushed up to get some of the juice, and a little bit of gin and a little bit of tonic, and then you just mix it together, and it's absolutely delicious. I find that when I'm in the kitchen, life is always better when I have something delicious to drink. It doesn't have to be alcohol all the time, but in the evening after a difficult day at work, sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of gin, a little bit of wine, but sometimes it's just nice to have a refreshing drink while you're cooking and make the cooking part of the meal as much of a fun experience, as an enjoyable experience as the actual eating. When Natasha was growing up, that was the time that we used to spend together the most. She would sit at the counter and I would provide snacks, not drinks. She was young, or soft drinks or something. But we would sit together and we would talk and talk, and sometimes it was just silence and a little bit of crunching from whatever snack she was eating. So the other day we were sitting in the garden together, and I asked her, when you were younger and we used to cook together, we were talking about what I was going to be doing today. I said, what was the thing that you enjoyed the most? What did you like? And she looked at me, she started laughing, and she goes, it was the snacks. I was always at the counter for the snacks. It was never the conversation. So I thought that was pretty funny. I think she's watching. So hi, Tasha. Hope you have some good snacks to keep you entertained tonight. And talking about snacks, my nuts are gonna burn in the oven. Let me go check on them. Keep working on your dough. I'll be right back. Nice and brown. Okay, now we're gonna turn the oven to 350 degrees to wait for the pie. Okay, so my dough here is almost at 12 inches. So I think I'm almost ready to cover the pie. It's not a perfectly round circle, so I think we're going to have to improvise with some creativity. But we'll see. I'll show you what we can do if things are not perfect. Sometimes I end up cutting little circles and making pretty little patterns to cover any holes that were left in the dough. Sometimes when the dough just does not want to work with me and I end up with chunks of dough instead of a nice sheet, we end up making really pretty leaves or patterns to make the pie beautiful and make it seem as if it was intended. Okay, we're going to bring our pie dish back. And we're going to place this on top. Try not to smush the apples too much. Ta-da! Okay, now we're going to try to make the edges kind of even. I'm going to bring my handy little scissors here. Okay, so I'm going to cut the really long pieces with my scissors. Is everyone at this point already, or do I need to tell you a few more stories to let you catch up to this? Go ahead and tell Juan if you want me to slow down a little bit. It's fun to have you here live. I hope you're having a good time baking too. Okay, so now we are rolling the edges back towards the pie. There's way too much dough on this side. And you will find it's not a perfect pie, but it will be very delicious. Okay, so now you have rolled the dough back, and we're going to use our thumb to smoosh the edges so that you create that pretty pattern that you normally think about when you think about a pie. I hope you have found the process as simple as I told you it would be. I don't think I have ever seen an easier recipe for pie other than buying the pie crust from the store. But it's not as delicious. Now, if you have extra dough and you want to be creative and add a little flour, a little pattern, feel free. If you guys want me to slow down a little bit, let me know, and I will add little flowers to my pie while you catch up. Anybody asking for a little extra time, Juan?
No, everything's good.
Okay. So now we're going to take our knife. Let me see. Yeah, here's a sharp knife. And we're going to create some little openings in our crust to let the steam from the apples find a way out where we want it to come out. Okay, so I normally make a little cross shape opening at the top, and then I add a few openings throughout. If you hear a little moaning, is our dog. He wants to come and see what I'm doing, but he's too little. He couldn't see over the counter. Okay, so this is our pie. It looks pretty, doesn't it? Now I'm going to get another cookie sheet. And I like to place the pie on a cookie sheet in case any of the juice comes out and decides that it wants to venture out of the pie dish. That way you don't have to clean your oven. You can just clean your cookie sheet. So the oven is ready. It's at 350, and we are going to put the pie in the oven. There you go. See how easy that was? Now we are going to set the timer for 45 minutes. Start. Okay, so how easy was that? And you are welcome to hang out here and watch me prepare, or maybe you're also preparing the rest of the same dishes that I'm going to prepare for tomorrow. And I just find it so much easier to prepare, cut as much as I can, roast as much as I have to today. And then tomorrow, I don't have to get up super early. I can just enjoy the morning, hang out with Juan and Natasha. And then in the afternoon, about 4 or 5 hours before dinner is planned, I can start cooking, but all the really heavy work has been done. And I'm going to start doing that. So if you want to continue watching, great, join me. If you just want to make the pie and want to go take a nap for 45 minutes, go ahead. We'll be here in 45 minutes when I pull the pie out of the oven, and we'll see how it turned out. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit. And then we are going to continue with preparing the ingredients for the butternut squash soup. I like to normally clean as I go, but I don't want to be rude and spend half of my night at the sink, so we will clean up after. And I will roll this up, but we'll clean it nicely before I put it away. See how handy this was? Okay, so we're bringing our cutting board back. Here's the towel. And the next thing we are doing is cutting up the veggies for the butternut squash. So, and I bought a cubed butternut squash this time, so I don't have to worry about that. I'll just bring it up to show you. And I'm gonna bring out another cookie sheet. And then here's another trick that I love, so that the cleaning is much easier. I take a very large piece of foil paper. And I line my cookie sheet with the foil paper. So if anything gets stuck, it's stuck to the cookie sheet, to the foil paper and not the cookie sheet. That saves you a lot of time when you have to clean up. Okay, so there we go. Now we need to peel our carrot. So let me get a dish here. Oh, I'll use this as my counter trash can. You know, one of the things that I have actually enjoyed from all the cleanliness of dealing with COVID over the last, how many months now? 7 months, is that I have to wash and clean and do all of that before I put anything in the fridge. So when I'm ready to cook, I don't have to wash all my veggies. So that's really nice. Okay, so I'm gonna cut little cubes of about the same size of all my veggies. And I'm just gonna roast them. And tomorrow, they will become a delicious soup. Request of Natasha. So a few years ago, we took a trip to Europe to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Special Forces unit that Juan, my husband, served as part of when he was in the military in Spain. And all the stars aligned correctly, and we could take a break from work about the same time. So we ended up taking a tour of Provence, and we went to Barcelona and Cadaqués, and then we went to Annecy as well. And we happened to be in Annecy during one of their farmers markets, and I found the best little tool. There was this guy there, and he was making beautiful beautiful art with vegetables. So I was so excited. I went ahead and bought this tool, and the pillar has worked out great. The rest of it, I've never used it. I've tried. I could never make the beautiful little patterns and forms that he made. But whenever I use this, I remember that trip and how much that was, how much fun that was. When I travel, I like to bring little things that remind me of those travels, little things that I use on a regular basis instead of just souvenirs that are placed in a special place that I never see or that I have to make an effort to see, such as a peeler or, you know, a mug that I actually use. Okay, now we have this difficult little friend. So make sure you use a sharp knife. Try to cut a flat edge so that the rest of the cutting is a little bit easier. Okay. We'll remove the tip. And the squash here, the pumpkin, will be much easier to peel when it's already cut like this, because you're only dealing with half. So you do that. So an interesting thing happened when we were taking this tour of Provence. I don't know why I had become allergic to a lot of different food that year. And we found this lovely little restaurant that just sat like 10 people per evening. And the owner was the chef and the waiter, and it was a one-person operation there. And it was just charming and lovely. And it was kind of raining out, so it was just this beautiful little place, and in this old area of I forget which town we were in. I'm sorry? Aix-en-Provence, yes. So I did not realize that the salad had a really lovely powder of sunflower seeds, and the wonderful chocolate dessert had a lovely powder of pistachios. And at the time, I was terribly allergic to both. So we finished dinner, and by the time we got to the hotel, I was so sick. Oh my God. I thought I was going to choke. I was looking for a pen that Juan had in my mind was going to have to use to poke a hole in my throat to save me, because I was going to die that night. But the hotel was wonderful, and we called for help, and they called the equivalent of 911 there. And then they took me to the hospital. And by 2 in the morning, I was back at the hotel and ready to travel the next day. But that was really scary. So moral of the story, be careful with the powder that people use to garnish the food that you're eating. Make sure you're not allergic to anything that you're eating. Okay, so what I'm doing here is removing the seeds from the pumpkin. And we're going to save the seeds because we're going to roast them. And we're going to use them in the soup. And they give you a really nutty, delicious flavor. Oh my God, they're so good. Okay. And because we are cutting everything in cubes, it's going to take a lot less time to roast in the oven. And then, okay, so as I've told you, I'd like to modify the food, the recipes, with any ingredients that I happen to have handy. And today I realized that I had a couple of sweet potatoes, yams, that I'm not going to use in the yams with marshmallows. So I am going to use those as part of the soup. Just anything that kind of has that flavor of autumn and Thanksgiving will go well with the soup. And funny enough, it's all kind of orangish. Okay. So we better stop soon because otherwise we're going to have to double layer on the cookie sheet and we don't want to do that. So I will roast the yams with the rest of the yams instead. I still have this. And the onion we are going to roast in a much larger shape because we don't want it to burn. Okay, so we'll make a little room for the onion here. So pumpkins, as much as that we relate them to Halloween and Thanksgiving here, they remind me of Mexico. And they remind me of the Mexican Halloween celebration, which is really Day of the Dead. Now I think everybody celebrates Halloween, but when I was a kid, we used to celebrate Dia de los Muertos, which is the 2nd of November. And people, instead of asking for trick-or-treats, they would ask for the dead. Celebration of the dead. It was very odd. And the kids were not really allowed to do this, but the teenagers and the grown-ups would go from house to house and they would sing, give us food for the dead or something like that. And then one of them would pretend to be dead and lay on the floor. But instead of candy, people would give them cooked pumpkin, big slices of cooked pumpkin with piloncillo or some other sweetener. So it was kind of interesting, but that's what pumpkin reminds me of more than what we use it here. Okay, so our veggies are ready. I'm going to move these but I'm going to wash them because I was close to the onion. To the rest of the yams. And I'm going to save the seeds to toast in a little bit. So I'm going to get a little bowl and do that. Okay, and we're going to save this. Wash my hands, they're a little gooey now. Okay, the next item is on our schedule, preparing the turkey for tomorrow. So this is kind of a big thing. We're going to remove everything that could potentially be contaminated by the turkey, because that's the last thing we want. Sorry, I dropped something here. So we need to be very, very, very careful with the turkey. Okay, we're going to put this over to the side, and I'm going to have a little drink. How much longer do we have on the pie? It's only been there for 15 minutes. So we still have half an hour. We have plenty of time to get our turkey ready and then put it away again. So this is probably the smallest turkey I've ever made. It's only 12 pounds. I was telling you earlier about the gatherings with my family. Even though we celebrate in 3 different places, one family celebrates up in near Santa Barbara, another one near LA, and then the other part of the family is kind of made up of all the smaller families. And we all get together and we all bring different dishes, and it's so much fun. But we never have to cook a full meal because we always share the work and the cooking. But this year, even though it's just going to be Juan, Natasha, and I, because we want to be careful and avoid the spread of that horrible virus that's changed our life for the whole year, I'm making all of the dishes that we would normally have with the family. And I'll be thinking of all the family, and we'll make the best of the situation that we can. So, on that note, here's your turkey. I have already taken the time to defrost it, clean it up, pat it dry, and I have taken wine, Tabasco, garlic, and salt, and I have made this little juice here that normally I would inject into the turkey. But because we're up in Big Bear, you can't have any mistakes. I actually broke my syringe this morning, and there was no place in town to pick up a new syringe to be able to infuse the turkey. So remember earlier I told you that we always make do with whatever we have? We're going to do that. So we're taking a very sharp knife and we're going to make a few incisions in the body of the turkey. We're going to make little cross incisions, and then we're going to wash our knife very, very well. Okay? It's all about being creative and dealing with whatever unexpected issues you come across. So, we're infusing the legs, the breasts, and then we'll go a little bit deeper here on the side. It's a pretty good looking turkey. Jeremy, if you're watching, not as beautiful as the turkeys that you posted today. Those were gorgeous. I hope they're your pets and they're safe and nobody's going to eat them. Okay, so this is my homemade infusion device. I took a little gadget that I use to add the filling to pastries, and then a little funnel that I use for different things around the house or around my kitchen. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to insert it in the holes that I made in the turkey. And that's how we're going to infuse the turkey today. Some of it will stay, some of it will come out, but that's okay. And of course, we're going to wash everything very, very, very well because we don't want to get sick with this beautiful bird. We can massage it in the skinnier areas to make sure it all stays in. Some of it came out. I don't think I've ever stuffed a turkey. I've heard too many horror stories. So I make the stuffing on the side. You know, we live in a small town, and all our neighbors are good friends. So when one of us runs out of anything, we immediately reach out to the rest. Say, do you have this? Can I borrow this? And I love that. I love the feeling of being in a small community. I miss the fact that we haven't been able to get together and hang out and cook together and enjoy drinks together. But what can we do? Well, that is good for now. And now I'm going to add some of this juice to the cavity in the turkey.
How did you make the juice again?
I'm sorry?
How did you make the juice again?
The juice is 1.5 cups of white wine, a 1/4 cup of Tabasco sauce. So if you don't want spicy, just add a few drops. We like spicy. And salt and garlic powder. And that's it. Okay, now we're going to cover our turkey and put it back in the fridge until tomorrow. And I know I touched the turkey, so I'm using the hand that didn't touch the turkey. And all the beautiful seasoning on top of this turkey will happen tomorrow. For now, we just want to make sure that it's safe and comfortable resting in the fridge with all its seasonings inside. Okay, I'm going to wash my hands. And it's going back in the fridge. And I'm also bringing out the veggies for our next item of business here. Okay. Let's remove this. Okay, the next item is roasting yams. So let's pull out yet another cookie sheet. Yes, I have a lot of them. I collect cookie sheets. Luckily, they're thin and they're stackable. Okay. Can you guys smell the apple pie baking? I can start to smell it here. Can you guys smell it at your house? Okay, now if you have any frustrations that you need to get out tonight, this is the time. Take your favorite fork, hold on tight to that fork, and start stabbing. Stab your yams. They're probably not at fault for whatever you're upset about, but that's okay. They're friendly yams that are allowing us to let our frustrations out on them. So I'm doing about 4 stabs per side. That one's short, so I just did 3. So as part of my job, I have to schedule a lot of people to develop very complex projects. And when it comes to preparing a big meal, those skills actually come in really handy, as you could tell by the schedule that I sent earlier this week. You have to figure out how to stagger the work so it gets done. Same way that you stagger work so that things always keep moving. And that's how one little person can prepare a whole Thanksgiving meal by herself. I wonder for how many people this is the first time that they will be preparing a Thanksgiving meal by themselves. I'm sure it's going to be pretty scary, so I hope that doing this together, it becomes a little bit less scary. Okay, so yams are ready to be roasted. We're going to put them away. And then the next item on our list is preparing the veggies for the snacks that Natasha will be enjoying tomorrow while I cook, and she keeps me company. She didn't want anything heavy. She wanted hummus and veggies. So I bought some hummus at the store. I bought some naan bread at the store that I will defrost tomorrow and cut up and warm up. And I bought little baby carrots. They're already pre-cut and ready to go. I bought celery. And here's one thing. Normally when you have a crudité, you have pieces of vegetables that are too big for a single dip, and you end up eating half of the vegetable without any delicious hummus or ranch dressing or whatever you're dipping it in. Or you end up catching those people that double dip, and I'm not good with that. So I decided, why don't I just cut them a little bit smaller so that every bite is a single dip, and it's small enough that you can put it in your mouth and enjoy it and not feel like you have to double dip. How good is that? So now we're gonna cut the bell peppers. Aren't this beautiful? I just love colorful bell peppers. And I'm not gonna dirty another dish. I'm gonna put them right back in there. Let me get a clean knife. And I'm gonna do the same thing that I did for the celery. I'm gonna cut them in small pieces, so that way every bite is a single bite. And then tomorrow I'll arrange them in a beautiful pattern on a pretty dish before I serve them. Because even if it's just Juan and Natasha and I, it's nice to make everything look pretty and celebrate the fact that the three of us are together, that we're still here, and that we can celebrate the day even if the rest of our family is not here. Maybe we'll end up Zooming with people during dinner, and we'll put them at the end of the table so it looks like we're all together. We'll see. And yes, from my cutting abilities, you will find I am not a trained chef again, but I have fun, and I hope you're having fun doing this as well. There was a Thanksgiving celebration that we did when we lived in Yorba Linda, and my dad was there. And I had prepared hors d'oeuvres of spicy shrimp and many other things, but the spicy shrimp was there. And my spicy shrimp is pretty legendary, let me tell you. By the time dinner was served, my dad looked at me, he says, "What? You mean there's turkey tonight?" I said, "Well, it's Thanksgiving. Of course there's turkey, Dad." He says, "Well, I sat next to the spicy shrimp. It was so good. I ate so much. I cannot have a bite of anything else." So he ended up skipping a whole meal because he had enjoyed that spicy shrimp so much that he just could not eat anything else. It was cute. We always laughed about that. So when he was very ill, he was craving spicy shrimp, and I made it for him, of course. But the meds had changed his taste buds, and he could no longer enjoy them. So I'm glad that he got to eat as many as he wanted on that Thanksgiving dinner night. Okay, our veggies are ready. Veggies. So now we just have to wait for the pie. And we have, let's see, another 12 minutes. So let me see. What else can we talk about in the next 12 minutes? We already have all our preparations ready. Juan, do we have any questions or comments? So let me tell you about what else we're going to make tomorrow, and maybe we can actually get a head start on some of that. Let me look at the menu again. Okay, so we have the butternut squash soup. We're going to clean the seeds that's left. The turkey's ready to go. The giblets. How much do you enjoy those giblets? Let's go, huh? I think Juan is the only person that actually likes giblets. Let's see, where did I put them here? Okay, we are done cutting veggies. So now I can use my cutting board for cutting giblets. Now my favorite. Actually, as a kid, I really, really loved the heart of the chickens and whatever meat my mom made. But the heart was one of my favorite parts. I don't know why. I was a strange child. Okay, so here we go. We're going to cut everything up in very small pieces. And then tomorrow, this will be the base of our gravy. So I'm not sure if you can call it gravy. It's going to be more of a reduction sauce with wine and spices, and then the little brown bits that are going to be left over after I cook all this delicious giblets. There was one heart that I really did enjoy eating when I was a kid. My mom had a rooster. I don't remember its name. We usually name the animals, but I don't remember what that rooster's name was. It was a big white rooster. This thing was massive. And whenever I walked into the backyard, this thing would just charge at me and scare me half to death. It was horrifying. Look, I'm cutting the giblets in very, very thin slices because I want them to cook very well, and I don't want to have to cook for hours. Okay, so there was that rooster, and that thing lived there, and he hated me, and I hated him. And then one day, he must have pissed off my mom one too many times, because, of course, I don't know if any of my siblings are watching, but I was always mom's favorite child. But it must have attacked me one too many times. And my mom decided that it was time to turn that horrible, evil rooster into dinner. And it was the most delicious mole I've had in my life. That heart was nicely prepared by my mom, and it was delicious. And I didn't have to be afraid anymore when I went to the backyard. Going to the backyard then was nice. My dad had a lot of cactus planted in the backyard. So in the summer, it was so beautiful to go there in the morning. Summers in Mexico, we always had rain at night, big thunderstorms. So in the morning, I would wake up and you could smell that rain smell, that wet dirt smell, whatever it's called. And then I would walk into the backyard, and the cactus always had those beautiful, colorful blossoms. And it meant summer. It smelled like summer. And it was just really beautiful. So that rooster no longer invaded my summer. But part of growing up, part of life experiences. Now here in Big Bear, in our small community, one of our neighbors actually supplies all the eggs that we need, as long as the weather is not too hot or too cold. The chickens go on strike. Did you know that? They actually stop laying eggs if it's too cold or too hot. So once in a while, I have to go to the market for my eggs because, well, I have to order them. I no longer go to the market these days, but I have to order my eggs because the chickens don't like the weather. There you have it. Okay, I need to wash my hands because I touched all that. Give me 1 second. And I'm gonna cover this up and put it back in the fridge right away. Save it for tomorrow. And I'm gonna check on our pie. It's got 6 minutes left to go. So let's talk a little bit about decorations while we look at our pie. Oh, it's still got a long ways to go. So let's talk about decorations for tomorrow. I think most of you have seen on my Facebook posts that I had this wonderful idea last year to just buy plain white tablecloths and then provide Sharpies for all my guests at the end of the meal. And then everyone got to sign the tablecloths. And then I decided to embroider every single signature in a different color that reminded me of the person that had either signed or made the funny little drawing. So I'm going to show you. Give me 1 second. I'll have to share that with you. Stay, Muffy. Okay, so here they are. So this year, even though I'm only going to have one table, I'm going to use all 4 tablecloths because I really want to have all my family with me, and having their signature is like having a little piece of everybody here with me. So we had 4 tables last year, and 1 table was dedicated to all the youth, all the 20-somethings in the family or that joined us. And they were very creative with their signatures. Of course, they use the wrong side of the tablecloth, but it's okay. I love them anyway. So here, let me show you. So this one is really funny. Angel is an artist, and he just graduated from the Pasadena Art Center, and he's super talented and wonderful. But he draws really scary things. So monsters and scary beings that eat human flesh and little kids and all that scary stuff. So he decided to make a monster under his signature. Well, I can't have a scary monster on my tablecloth. The monster became pink. So it took all the scariness away, and there's Angel. And then Alex became very creative with his signature, and he's so bright, I just decided to make him green. Tasha, well, she made me work really hard. There she is, Tasha, with lots of marker and a lot of embroidery to do. And then there's Albert. He decided that a phone represented him. So here you go. Call me sometime, Albert. Then there's Chris. Chris is very polite, very proper. So Chris just had a simple signature, and that gray blue seemed to be very Chris-like. Let's see, what else do we have here? I think that's all we have on this one. Let me fold this up real quick, and then I'll show you the other ones. I highly recommend doing this. It's so nice to have that little bit of the family with you. And every Thanksgiving, I will try to have people that join me for dinner sign the same 4 tablecloths so that we can just add to the memories. Let's see here. Let me find some funny ones here. Sal, my brother, he says, hope to see you next year. Sal, maybe we can Skype or Zoom or something tomorrow since we won't be able to see you. Now Juan decided to be funny and draw himself. The funny thing is that he actually does look like that.
I hear you.
So that's Juanito. He's about 6'8", very, very thin, as his little picture here, but he goes by Juanito. Have you guys noticed that Hispanic people, Latin people, always add an ito or ita to names as a form of endearment? So instead of Juan, he's Juanito. Many members of my family call me Thelmita instead of Thelma. When my sisters are being especially sweet to Natasha, she becomes Natashita. So little is endearing, which is good for me. Okay, then apparently Lee really likes Mark. Lee is a brother-in-law, and so is Mark. And they decided to tell each other how much they love each other forever and ever on a tablecloth. Anna, another very formal, nice person, didn't give me a lot of work. She just signed her name. And that says the pie should be ready. Let's go check on the pie. My pie needs a little more time. Here, I'm going to show you. Oh, can you see it here, Juan? There? Okay. It's a little too pale, so it's going back in the oven. I'm going to turn it around because the oven seems to heat up a little bit more in the back. And it's going to go in for another 15 minutes. I suggest you do the same. Check your pie, see what it looks like, and then if it's not that pretty brownish golden color, put it back in there for a little bit longer. We live, again, in Big Bear. We are at 7,100 elevation above sea level, so everything cooks for a longer period of time. So very likely your pie is ready now. Mine won't be ready for another 15 minutes or so, but I rather be safe, check it at 45 minutes, and then not have to be sad because I burned my pie. So in Big Bear, it's hard to burn anything, but I don't want you to burn your pie. So check on your pie. I'll give you a couple of minutes. I'm going to try the nuts that we made earlier and see how good they turned out. They're actually really delicious. This afternoon, I made candied walnuts, or pecans. Here, let me move this out of the way. We'll put this in a pretty dish and display them as we enjoy them. So, pecans, caramelized pecans, candied pecans. Normally you just use a little bit of water, regular sugar, brown sugar, and a little bit of cinnamon. So I decided to make them a little more delicious, and I added red pepper flakes. And oh my God, these things are so delicious, so good. So those are going to be part of what we have tomorrow while we're waiting for our food to cook. And we have a little bit extra time. We have done everything we needed to do. We have moved pretty fast. So tell me if there are any comments, any questions, any thoughts on everything that we have talked about, or anything else that you want to talk about. And I'm happy to answer anything that I can. In the meantime, I'll tell you about the setup for dinner tomorrow. I like to use everything that I have. The nice dishes, the nice plates, the nice silverware. Whenever I have an opportunity to use it. I don't believe in saving candles or outfits or dishes for special occasions. I have been too close to not being able to enjoy those things, and I no longer want to wait. So if somebody gives me a beautiful candle, I will use it and I will enjoy it, and I will love the gesture and think of that person when I smell that candle, when I use that candle. If I have a beautiful dish and I use it and it happens to break, I'll be sad for a little bit, but at least I got to enjoy it. So I hope that when you set your Thanksgiving dinner table tomorrow, yes, one?
Yeah, Matthew says, is it the same menu every year or you switch it up?
Okay, I don't know if you guys heard that. Nasli wants to know if I make the same menu or if every year or if I switch it up. No, every year there's kind of the basics, and then we always have a little something different, something new. There's always turkey. We usually have minimum two turkeys. My sister Anna and her husband Lee often fry the turkey that they bring, and oh my God, it's always so delicious. So they're usually in charge of one turkey. I'm usually in charge of a second turkey, and mine usually is similar to today's, but I always kind of change up the flavors. I'm not sure I like the flavors they used last year, so I'm going back to my proven one.
She's asking if you can show how to use that orange cutting thing.
Oh, you want to see how to use the orange cutting thing? This thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So here it is. Here's an orange. Again, I've never really been able to use it very nicely, so I will kind of show you what it does, and then you can tell me. Okay, see, oops, I went too far. See, you can do cute things like that. You can, what else can you do? It's kind of a miniature peeler, and it also does have little corners that you can use to I don't know, do fun stuff, pretty things with fruit. I've never been able to use it. I will find the pictures of the artwork that the gentleman had that sold me this, and then I'll post them on my channel so you can see what they can do. Now there's another tool that I have that I absolutely love. Let's see, where did it go? Okay, so I love citrus fruit, okay? And I have a lot of tools that help me work with citrus. So this one is kind of a funny one, but you use in the same manner that you use this, and you use to help you cut or peel oranges or lemons. You know how hard it is to get that first little piece of skin off the orange? It always messes your nails. Well, you no longer have to worry about it when you have this tool. Then this one is really good. Can you see it? It's got this almond-shaped, sharp little edge. And that one, you can actually go a little bit deeper into the orange and use this side of the tool to remove the orange peel from the orange. Ta-da! See? There you go. So these are pretty handy little tools. Now, your nails will never have to be ruined by oranges again. You know what else I can show you while we wait for the pie? Or 9 o'clock. Since I hope you all have me on your books until 9, is how to peel a pomegranate the right way. Let me get a big plate. So how many times have you ended up not eating a pomegranate because you're afraid of having to peel it and getting the juice all over yourself? I bet more than once. So Laura and Dave, I think I told you earlier, grew this pomegranates in their house, and they brought them to us the other day. Okay, so this is what you do. You cut the stem, or the end of it, and then you cut just enough to find the edge of the segments. It's almost like peeling an orange. You got to find where the segments are, right? Okay. And of course, I will end up with juice on my glasses and my face, but it's still a lot easier than just cutting it in half. Okay, so you see where there's a separation in the segments here? So what you do is you just cut down alongside of those segments. When I was in college, one of my professors always spoke when he was eating. So other professors used to say that he had the most informative tie on campus because you always knew what he had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So at the end of the day, you will find that my glasses are the most informative part of my house because they will have a little bit of everything that I have cooked throughout the day. Okay, so now we have cut the edges. We're going to cut the center just a little bit more to make it easier to separate. Okay, you see? Now, super strong hands, actually not. And then you just separate each of the segments, and then it makes it really easy to remove the seeds and enjoy them. How about that? Good pomegranate. Thank you, Laura. Okay, it's time to check on our pie again. Where's the other glove? Well, my pie still has a ways to go. It's cooked, it's just not pretty enough. So I'm gonna let it sit in the oven another 15 minutes. Okay, so in 5 minutes, I will let you go and just check on your pie. Make sure that you take it out as soon as it's lightly browned. It will continue to cook a little bit after you take it out. So be careful with not overcooking it. And then don't dig into the pie right away. You gotta wait at least an hour before you cut it up, because all the juice from the apples and the pears or whatever fruit you ended up using will have to kind of rest in there to become a little bit thicker so that it becomes part of the slice and you don't end up with only the crust and not the slice. Although that would probably be very welcoming news to Natasha. She loves the crust more than she loves the pie. But so wait about an hour before you cut into the pie. I like to have a slice when it's still warm and then have a nice scoop of ice cream with it. So enjoy it, have fun. And tomorrow I will be continuing to cook the rest of the meal and the turkey and everything starting at 1 p.m. And I will continue until everything is cooked and done. And then I will leave you alone so you can enjoy your meal with your family. So thank you so much for joining me today. It was fun to share my kitchen and my ideas and my recipes with you. So I hope you come back to cook with Thelma, and hopefully we'll see you here at least once a week. Oh, it looks like we have another question.
Laura is asking, do you use a broiler to brown the pie?
No, I don't use the broiler to brown the pie. I'm always afraid that it's going to burn. So I rather wait at the same temperature of 350 to brown it and not take the chance of burning it. Anything else? No? Okay. So thank you again. Have a good evening. Enjoy your pie. And more tomorrow, and if not tomorrow, I'll see you next week. Again, thank you for being here, and let's cook together again and cook with Thelma. Thank you. Take care. Bye.